All right, we're going to begin. Welcome to the February 6th business meeting of the school committee. Mrs. Kennedy, can you call the roll, please?
Mayor Ridden.
I am here.
Ms. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Walker.
Present.
Mr. Menon.
Here.
Mr. Cole is absent. Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Ms. Higgins.
Here.
One absent.
All right, can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I will now turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Hall.
All right. Do we have anyone present for public comment this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to student and staff recognitions.
All right. I'm up quick.
Yes.
All right. Nobody named Penelope this? No Penelope, no. We have a new rule. New policy.
Just remember who got in your head right before you walked up there, okay?
All right. Let me just make sure we got perfect. One more. We have so many students to recognize tonight. I can't wait. Perfect. All right. As part of our new tradition, or a tradition that we started a while back, is beginning of every school committee meeting, we're recognizing great work of our faculty and support staff, and then also some wonderful accomplishments of our students. So tonight, we're really excited to recognize some great students and also some great staff. So here we go. Our first recognition, I'd like to call up, we're going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to call up Evan Legu. There you go. Thank you, Emily. So Evan, why don't you come on up? You can stand right next to me. And I'm going to tell you why. We also have another student who will be recognized who's not here tonight, but you all know him, I think, from last year, Cedar Schumacher. But I want to congratulate both Cedar and Evan. Congratulations for passing auditions and being selected to participate in the Northeast Massachusetts Youth Orchestra Winter Concert. Evan was in the choir and Cedar was in the jazz section. This is a distinct honor for young musicians throughout the Commonwealth. This organization offers music ensemble training and experience to young musicians from more than 50 North Shore and Cape Ann, Merrimack Valley, and Southern New Hampshire communities. So this selected group, it's a true honor and prestige, and we're very excited to congratulate a great musician here. This is a photo op. Congratulations, awesome job. All right, I'm going to call up our next honor here. Our next student is Theo Roberts. Come on up. Theo's getting a couple recognitions, but we'll read the first one here. Theo Roberts, grade 10. Congratulations for Theo being selected outstanding delegate by the Model UN Committee while at the Model UN International Competition held at McGill University in Montreal, Canada this fall. Students participating in Model UN learn about diplomacy, international relations, and the United Nations. This conference attracts over 1,600 delegates from around the world and participate in lively debates. So among the 1,600, among all of the faculty members from throughout the world, Theo Roberts was selected as a delegate, and congratulations. might as well stay up here.
Sure.
Get used to it. All right. So our next award, we're going to also call up Rourke Lee, grade 10. Come on up, Rourke. And then also Theo Roberts is also being recognized for this. And this is really a very interesting project and really excited about this one. So Rourke Lee and Theo Roberts have been working collaboratively with Northeastern University Professor Thomas Starr to bring Climate Futures project into Newburyport. This undertaking is a multi-state public and art project that uses silver plaques to communicate the impact of climate change to passerby in the guise of historical markers in the future. These markers can be found along coastal communities in North Shore. We're excited to have these two students spearhead this effort and get Newburyport involved in this project. So thank you very much. Congratulations. Sweating up there. Yeah, you might just. All right. This is a lot of great faculty. All right. Must be the Hollywood lights up here. I'm getting a little hot. This is actually a true honor to recognize these teachers and this staff. And I know a couple weeks ago, I have a script here, but I'm going to go off script. Sometimes I do a little bit better. Ms. O'Connor and Mr. Pierce actually gave a presentation on the in-district reading programs that we've established here in Newburyport to address reading disabilities for some of our students that just need a little bit extra support. So when you develop a reading program of this nature, it takes faculty and support staff, number one, to believe in the philosophy, but number two, the dedication and commitment for additional training that these staff went through on weekends over the summer, because they truly believe in putting the students first and themselves second. And anytime you mention to the Mullen staff and these teachers, this might be good for students, they're all in. So when we look at developing in-district programming in Newburyport, these teachers are the pioneers for that. And we wanted to just take a moment to recognize them for all of their efforts. And it's true collaboration between special education and general education, and just a great Mullen team here tonight. So we're going to be recognizing 8 staff members who really led the way, committed their nights, vacations, and weekends to Wharton Gillingham trainings, paved the way for students to receive a quality program in their own community. Today, the program has expanded, and now we have over 14 additional staff members who are being trained currently throughout the district from grades 2 to grades 8. This group of teachers here that we recognize have paved that way, demonstrated the excellence in Newburyport Public Schools, and we want to thank them and congratulate them for all of their efforts. So, in recognition, we'll call them up, and they can come on up, and Mayor will hand out their certificates. We have Eileen Barry. Congratulations. Aubrey Bridges. Katie DeCoste. Jen Fisk. Margaret Sue. We'll recognize them. They did said they could not make it tonight. Ian Marie Day. Martha Trail. Emily Weber. That's dedication, right there. And Principal Rossi, why don't you come on up also? Team photo. All right, congratulations, and time for a picture right here. All right, I think we'll take a...
Yeah, we'll now take a few minutes recess so we can congratulate the recipients this evening.
All right, 5-minute recess.
Everyone back? Okay, I think we're ready to jump back in, starting with the warrants, if you're ready, Mr. Callahan.
I am ready. I move that the following name bills of the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate $493,426 be approved and forwarded to the city auditor for payment. There are no conflicts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, for minutes, we have 2 sets. We'll start with the minutes from the January 3rd meeting. Do we have any corrections for January 3rd?
Yes, sorry. I was just-
Yes. I'm wondering if we should shut the door. Would someone mind just closing the door? Thank you, Wes. Go ahead.
Okay, so on page 4, under the first, the revision to walkers and riders policy EEAA, I was a little confused about the record of the votes because I believe the 2 motions are actually, should be combined because the first motion was made by Member Menon and seconded by Sarah Hall, and then we had discussion and I suggested amending it, and I believe it was then amended by the motion maker and seconded by the second. So it appears in the minutes that there are 2 votes, but I think we just voted on the same item. It was just amended. So I'd prefer that's consolidated unless I have a different recollection of what happened.
I'm just getting to that
Okay.
piece. I remember seeing that too. So basically just consolidate that into one.
Yeah,
Do you see
that would
where
be
she's,
my
what she's
suggestion.
talking about, Mrs. Kennedy?
So I should eliminate the first one and keep the second one as amended?
Yeah, I mean,
That
I
work?
think you need to, yeah, and just note that it was amended as noted. I think you captured how it was amended accurately. It was just that it was just one vote, so. And then under that, there's a comment, there's 2 notes, one from Member Callahan and a response from myself, and I just wanted to clarify that. The first comment, I think it should say Brian Callahan inquired about estimates of how many additional students would be eligible to ride the bus with this change.
Yeah, extra kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you capture that, Mrs. Kennedy? Okay, and then, I'll wait for you to catch up, I'm sorry. And then I think my response was that estimates were provided by the Transportation Committee from last year, but were based on approximate distance from school. I think
Say that again, please.
yeah, I can make it more simple than that. Juliet Walker responded that the estimates were provided from the Transportation Committee, but they were based on approximate distance from school. I think that's probably succinct.
What committee?
Transportation Committee?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I think that
What
clarifies
came
it.
after that? By the Transportation Committee.
But the estimates were approximate distance from school.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have more. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
Okay. keep going.
Yep.
Under the revision to the dress code policy, JI,
Can you wait 1 minute?
sure.
Okay. What is
Okay.
the next one?
So under the vote for the revision to the dress code policy, I think you can just take out as amended. It was just adopted as presented. So there were no amendments at that time. And then finally, consistent with what we talked about at our retreat, I would suggest that all the information under the assistant superintendent's report be simplified to just the assistant superintendent, Lisa Marie Ippolito, provided a curriculum update. I think that the discussion that's recorded after that is incomplete and probably doesn't capture all of the conversation, and I just would prefer, yeah, if other folks are in agreement with that.
I think that's fine. That's what we discussed. If we're not, if there's no motion involved, any presentations, the discussion can be accessed through the video.
Yeah, and then similarly on the following page, for the superintendent's report, I would recommend the same process. Superintendent Gallagher provided a budget update, and then just leave it at that. Thank you.
Do we have any other revisions for the January 3rd minutes?
We need a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the January 17th minutes. I do have a small correction. Right at the top, Mrs. Kennedy, under call to order and roll call, it says at this point Vice Chair Sarah took over chairmanship. If you could just stick my last name in there.
Madonna.
Well, yeah. Any other, anything else for January 17th?
I move that we approve the minutes as corrected, as
Second.
supplemented.
Okay, second from Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we're all set. Olivia, you're up for the student representative report.
All right, this is a bit of a longer one, just a warning.
It's been, well, is this your first of the new year? I
Yeah,
feel like it
it
is,
is.
so welcome back.
Thank you. All right, so
So if
starting.
you could go back to January and start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That way, that'd be great.
feels like that.
Yeah.
This is what it is. All right, so starting with Bresnahan News and Kindness Month. Bresnahan students are celebrating Kindness Month this February. Staff and students will discuss kindness at morning meeting each day, and students will be encouraged to participate and notice acts of kindness all around the school. We will have a school-wide assembly this Friday that ties Kindness Month directly to our PBIS plan. And then, leading up to Valentine's Day, students are creating paper hearts that will be attached to Meals on Wheels for members of our community. Having handwritten notes or hand-drawn pictures on a meal is sometimes the only outside contact Meals on Wheels recipients receive, as they may be confined to their homes due to physical limitations or illness. Thank you to Robin O'Malley, a kindergarten teacher, for connecting us to Meals on Wheels. And then for curriculum, we just completed our mid-year DIBELS assessment for grades K through 3, and DIBELS stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. And it is a set of procedures and measures for assessing the acquisition of literacy skills. Last week, teachers spent their common planning time with our literacy coach, Rebecca Stewart, to review their own classroom reports and data to inform their instruction. Overall, we saw areas of growth across all grade levels, especially kindergarten and first grade. The DIBELS data also determines our Title I services and schedules. Title I is our literacy intervention program that works to bring students scoring below benchmarks to grade level. And then for staff development, this Friday, the early release day, our classroom teachers and special education teachers will continue professional development on iReady. iReady is being used as a math assessment tool to analyze students' strengths and areas for growth, plan instruction that addresses that data, and goal set with students and engage them in their learning and engage families in their students' progress. And then Clipper courses. The second round of Clipper courses have begun at the Bresnahan. Courses will run through mid-March. These courses are free and open to all K through 3 students. It provides an hour of enrichment after school hosted by the Bresnahan teaching staff. This semester's courses include inclusive arts and crafts, mindfulness, basketball, typing, and a lot more. Okay, and now on to Knock News. The January speaker series was a major success as our 8th grade students continue to get opportunities for exploration and many different careers. We had professionals from various fields such as music industry, healthcare, technology, software development, military, entrepreneurs, police force, FBI, and many more. We are excited to continue these opportunities of exploration for our students. And the Knock Principal Student Council has continued increasing student voice by discussing various student issues around backpacks, locker times, increasing music opportunities, and attendance. Knock administration is very pleased with the student leaders and their representation of their peers. With the ongoing initiative of PBIS, students have seen an increase of incentives around meeting expectations. Students have been earning tickets and have the opportunity to win some Knock swag, winter hats, t-shirts, and water bottles. Okay, and now on to high school. Students from the International Cultural Club, working over the past 2 years with advisor Eileen McConey, completed work on designing a global education program that will be offered in the program of studies for 2024 and allow students at NHS who successfully complete the program to earn a global citizenship certification that will become a part of their transcript. The following students deserve a special recognition for working before and after school as well as during many Clipper blocks. In school year 2022, students Dylan Ware, Katie Quinn, Samuel Walker, Julia Scanna, they're from the class of 2022, and Lily Tribanian, Molly Murphy are from the class of 2023, and Ida Gross, who is from the class of 2024. They researched area programs, assembled material, made connections with Andover High School and Lincoln Sudbury High School to learn their programs and create a mission statement for the NHS Global Citizenship Program. This year, Student International Cultural Club officers Alexandra Sullivan, Elle Miller, Declan Hawkeiser, Aya Mimoni, and students from the Leadership Summit Germany team, Aya Al-Khatib, Piper Allard, Aubriana Constrom, Sophia Franco, Madison Green, Zoe Kakuba, Bridget Mellett, Brayla Pavo, and Miles Zurcher developed the program outline, identified qualifications students should meet to be certified, created an entry for the program of studies, and continue to work on branding as well as refinements to the program. And then students Shannon Brock, Sophia Hartford, Mackenzie Clyott, Nadia Toth, and Avani Martino performed original poetry at the International Holocaust Day event at the Knock, sponsored by Human Rights Commission and Congregation Avas Achim, and they were very well received. All right, and NHS E-Club hosted Rescue the Merrimack on Sunday, February 5th via Zoom. We'd like to commend students Olivia Barbera, Madison Green, Cassidy Smith, Molly Murphy, Georgia Smith, and Sydney Clausen for facilitating this conversation. The newly formed chess club has over 35 students strong. Thank you to Mr. Cole and the NEF for overseeing this activity. All right, last page. Okay, the mock trial team finished its first year preliminary round trial at Lowell Central Catholic last week, coming within 2 points of a win. Our first year team lost all rounds by only a few points, facing experienced teams of Lawrence Catholic and Phillips Andover in addition to Lowell Central Catholic. But they did learn a great deal from the experience. In the judging process, the team did, however, win the actual trial case, although not scoring the points against Phillips Andover. Under the supervision of Ms. Martin and the support and sponsorship of Turco Legal, the team will continue to grow next year. The investment club continues to fine-tune its investment portfolio using funds provided by the NEF. Students part of the club recently provided a presentation to the Board of Local Financial Advisors for feedback. Thank you for the NEF for providing a realistic experience for our students. The dates for the sailboat competition were recently set, and it will take place from June 4th to June 9th at Camp Bowercrest, which is on Lake Attitash in Amesbury. And then an update from the College and Career Center. The Massachusetts Educational Finance Authority, MEFA, will provide the following informational and planning nights. Wednesday, March 1st at 6 p.m. for a junior college planning night. Wednesday, April 12th at 6 p.m. for a spring financial aid info night. And then finally, sports updates. The girls swim team won the Cal Dual Meet Champions and were 5-0, and won the Cal Open Championship with 474 points. And then the boys also got second for their Cal Dual Meet Champions and second for the Cal Open Championship.
I feel like that deserves a round of applause. Great job, Olivia.
Pose for a picture with
Can I get a motion to adjourn? Oh, no, that's not it. All right.
No, it's field trip time. Come on up, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. See you later.
I think I have as much to talk about as Olivia. So I'm back again with some field trips that we have, some for one for this school year and two that would be for next school year. And what I'll do is I'll do them in the chronological order. But like all of our field trips for students that are in need, we do have funding in order to subsidize for that. And so that has worked out very well for all the trips that we have coming up, and then obviously the same for these as well. The first trip is the National Arts Honor Society. So this will be the first time they used to go yearly, but this will be the first time since COVID that they will be going back to New York City. And this is gonna be on May 12th through the 14th. Students would be paying between $400 and $450. A good chunk of the trip is subsidized through money that the Art Honor Society has raised from different events that they've had throughout the year. And highlights of the trip will be they'll be going to the Botanical Gardens, they'll be going to the Brooklyn Museum, and they will also be seeing a Broadway show, Bad Cinderella. And so that is the New York City National Art Honor Society trip. And I don't know if you want me to talk about the other field trips, or do you need to vote on each one separately?
We need to vote on them separately, so
That's what I figured.
we'll just see if there are any questions or anything for this one.
I always love voting on a trip to New York City, and Botanical Gardens is a very good choice.
Do you want to make the motion?
I move that we approve this field trip as submitted by Mr. Wolf in the high school.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just add that it satisfies the policy guidance provided in School Committee Policy JJH. If we could add that to the motion, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So our second trip, this one would take place during April vacation of 2024. This is one of the trips that would be done, and it's organized through the EF company, who has done many of our trips, whether international and this one would be going to Hawaii. And the cost of the trip for the students is $5,473. And some highlights of the trip would be historical by visiting the USS Arizona and Missouri memorials, also going to Waikiki to hike Diamond Head, and then the Waimea Valley where they would be getting their cultural experiences on the trip. This is a trip that is being organized through Miss Moran and some of the programs that she's involved in, and plus with the science department.
Is this open to school committee members?
It could be. They will need chaperones.
I'll chaperone you, Sean.
Yeah, I'll go with you.
Oh, man. I've never chaperoned in all these years. I think I should get first crack.
So this is next April.
This is next April, correct?
So my only question was going to be how it connects to curriculum, and it sounds like it's the science program is.
It's the science program, but she's also working with the history department as well, because they are going to be going to those World War II memorials that are out there.
Great, thank you. I'm willing to
Go
make a
ahead.
motion unless there's other questions.
So I move to find that the proposed overnight trip satisfies the policy guidance provided in School Committee Policy JJH and approve the overnight trip as presented for the dates indicated.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the next one is the German exchange trip. So this is a program that had run for many years, and then unfortunately due to COVID, it had been canceled, but now it is coming back. And this is an actual exchange program organized through Spencer Wolf, but then also with our with another city in Germany, where their students will be coming here for 2 weeks in the fall of 2023, and then part of the exchange is our students then go at the very beginning of the summer, usually in mid to late June, pending on when our school calendar ends for the year, which is why the dates are not determined yet, because it's all contingent on the school calendar that you'll vote on at some point in time this year. And then that's when Mr. our Herr Wolf will be going and figuring out the flights and all of that, if approved, to get the actual total costs. But just to give a little bit of a summary, which I also think you have in your packets, but the program is called the German-American Partnership Program, which was established in the 70s, so allowing for this exchange to happen. And we've had the same partner school, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce that, Waldkirch in the Black Forest. So it is the same sister city that we've been involved with for the years prior to me being up here to look for support for this. And typically on average, the rough estimate of the trip is $2,100 because students are not staying in hotels, they're actually staying with host families. So our families who are part of the exchange here, they'll be hosting students when they come from Germany, and then when our students go, they'll be staying with a host family there.
The Newburyport kids go to school in
Yes.
Germany? So they're still in school in the middle of June?
They are, yes. And then when they come to us, they experience for the 2 weeks here in Newburyport High School.
Questions? Ms. Walker, do we have enough information to approve this now?
I think so. It's actually a pretty detailed summary
Okay.
in there. We don't need to know the exact price. I don't believe the policy doesn't require that.
Great. Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve the German exchange trip for fall of 2023, continuing into June of 2024 for our students, consistent with policy JJH.
Second.
Any discussion?
Not really discussion, I just have another question, I'm sorry. So 2 teachers go with all the kids?
Correct.
But then the kids stay with different, multiple families, I
Correct.
presume? Where do the teachers stay?
They stay at a hotel in the same town as the students.
Okay.
At camp, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All set? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
All right, thank you
you.
very much.
Okay, we're ready for capital improvement planning.
You want to come on up, Mr. Burkholm? I just get to introduce this first slide. You have the rest. So, this little arrow moves that for you. All right. All right, Steve Burkholm, our Facilities Director, is just going to kind of walk through the capital improvement. And as you'll see, when we go through the process, we've funded a lot of the capital improvement within the operational budget, especially with some ESSER funds around the ventilation and things like that. But Steve has all the details in the future planning. So there you go. They're up. Thanks, boss. Hey, everybody. I had the easy part. right, so every year, the city puts together a capital improvement plan where they get, that projects out 5 years. Each of the departments across the city submits their requests to City Hall for capital projects or equipment, things that are non-recurring improvements that cost at least $15,000 or more. So like I said, every city submits some of these, submits their requests. And the mayor's staff puts together a proposed capital improvement plan based on the available funding and sends it to City Council, who then goes through it and they can approve or not approve each of the items individually. So as Sean was mentioning, in addition to the funds from the city's capital improvement plan, the district has traditionally found other ways to fund capital expenses, and we'll go through some of that as we speak here tonight. So this slide's kind of just taking a backwards look at where we've been for the past 5 years. And if you look at the top row, those are projects that the city has funded. Back in FY19, there were quite a few projects, FY20 as well. FY21, there was no capital improvement plan because of COVID. And for the last 2 years, we've been shut out. We've had things move forward to City Council, and for one reason or another, they were not funded. But at the same time, we were able to come up with ways to take care of a number of other projects and equipment needs. We've used multiple sources for various energy reduction projects over the past several years, which has resulted in quite a bit of savings in our energy usage. And we've got more of those going forward as well. And of course, other funding sources, NEF is, as you know, has always been very generous to us and very helpful in helping us get things done and finding ways to make improvements to programs and you know, like the Knock Mole and Wellness Center, the Fitness Center at the high school, all great projects that the NEF helped us out with. The Moral Foundation funded a large part of the outdoor classroom and front walkway project at the high school. Pam Keeley, when she was the Director of Food Services, was able to get some nutrition assistant grants to help upgrade some of the aging kitchen equipment in both the high school and the middle school. And of course, we've also got some funds from the Community Preservation Act, most recently for the Knock Tennis Court renovation that was just completed this past summer. So looking forward, the items that you see from FY24 going out are things that will be on the next capital improvement plan requests to the city. You'll notice in FY23 under city funded, we put the NHS elevator. This is an issue that just came up over the past year or so. The state elevator inspector's office became aware of issues with elevators around the Commonwealth, actually around the country, when many elevators are being operated by the fire departments in emergency situations. The doors were opening at times when they shouldn't be opening, putting firefighters obviously in danger when they're in that situation. So last year, when the inspectors were going to elevators across the Commonwealth, they put an emphasis on testing that function in every single elevator, and all 3 of our elevators actually failed that test. The Bresnahan and middle school elevators were able to be fixed for about $5,000 each.
but because of the age of the high school elevator, we need to replace the entire control system, which is a cost of about $70,000. And we need to find that funding and get that under contract and get the parts ordered before May, when our next inspection is due, or the state could actually come in and shut the elevator down. That repair is actually about a 4 to 5 week project, so we need to time it over the summer this year to get that done while we're on summer break. Also this year, we were able to find the funds to replace one of our 12-year-old pickup trucks. We're using, I believe it's ESSER funds to upgrade the HVAC controls at both the Knockmolen and the high school. College and career space study is another ongoing project that we're working with an architectural firm on, as well as the Integrated Arts Space Study Program. And then there's another energy reduction project that we're just kind of getting started on right now. So I'll talk more about the other projects going forward as we go through this a little bit more. This is just kind of more of a graphical depiction of where the fundings come from for all of our capital projects over the past 5 years. So it kind of, it shows that the city did fund quite a bit back in FY19 and FY20. Since then, we've had to be very resourceful finding other ways to get things done. So of course, some of the most costly expenses that we've got coming up involve the roofs, both at the high school and middle school. For the past several years, we've been talking about the Building A roof at the high school, which is mainly the white roof section you see there on the right-hand side, the front part of the school, which is the original 1937 section of the building. That roof right now is about 27 years old. We've tried to tie it in with the potential science wing renovation and addition, which, as everybody is probably aware, is we were not accepted into the MSBA's program again this year. So we really need to start moving forward with finding a way to get that done sooner rather than later at this point. The MSBA used to have a program that was specifically for replacing roofs, boilers, and windows. But because construction costs have come up so much in the past couple of years, they've temporarily suspended that program. They don't say what temporary means. It could be a year, it could be 2 years, it could be forever. They don't tell us. But in the letter that they put out explaining that they had suspended that program, one of the things they mentioned was that they were seeing costs in excess of $50 per square foot for roof replacements. So that's the number that I've used in figuring out what our costs are going to be. So as you can see there, the Building A section of the roof is about $1.5 million in construction costs. And on top of that, you need to also figure in the engineering costs and owner's project manager. Because it's a project that's in excess of $1.5 million, we are required to hire an owner's project manager. The 4% and 11% of construction costs that I've used to figure those costs out comes from the MSBA website. They have this whole section on cost data that helps you kind of figure these things out. So that's where that's all come from. The Building B roof, which is the pie-shaped addition on the left-hand side of that screen. It's hard to believe, but that was 20 years ago that addition was put onto the high school. So that roof is now 20, 21 years old. So we need to start considering that that's going to need to be replaced sometime in the next few years as well. Middle school roof is something that has been on the capital plan for a number of years, is kind of down the road, and we're down the road now. It's time to think about getting that done. You know, kind of the same process of figuring out or estimating a cost for that. Square footage times $50 per square foot. We do have the solar panels on that roof, so that complicates the project a little bit more. So I've added in an allowance for that part of the project. Any questions to this point? Bruce?
The Knockmolan School gym and auditorium roof, so it's not the entire roof that's being replaced, that's being recommended to be replaced, or is it?
No, it's just the gym and the auditorium. The other roofs on the building have all been replaced within the past. Well, a lot of them were replaced during the renovation project.
Okay.
What was that, 7, 8, 9 years ago now? And there's one section that was replaced about 15 years ago.
What was I'm sorry.
No, you got it.
What, I forget, I know I've been told this before, but why didn't we do the whole thing during that renovation project? What was the reasoning for not doing the?
You know, it wasn't really in terrible shape at that point, and I think having the solar panels on it was a big factor in, you know, it would add the, you know, adding to the cost and just trying to keep that project within budget.
I have a question about the high school. I guess this is maybe applicable to all the projects, but it is frustrating the city council has chosen not to fund our projects, but I would like to know, I mean, it gets to a point where deferred maintenance is a real issue. And I guess if there's some way to quantify the cost of deferred maintenance, I mean, these projects, the older these roofs get, I'm assuming the more costly it's going to be to replace them. Is that a logical sequence? And then the other part of it is, what happens if there's a leak or something? What kind of potential damage could there be? You know, what's under these roofs that's particularly... Yeah, so I think quantifying that information, I'm more asking, less asking for myself because I kind of know the answer. I don't know how I can quantify it. But I think in making the case, you know, yes, construction costs are going up, and maybe it would be good to be able to wait, see if they go down again, but at the same time, we're risking increased costs if we don't invest in these much-needed improvements. So I think understanding the cost of deferred maintenance would be somehow helpful if we can quantify that in some way. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, and we are leaking in some places,
Yeah.
and it's random. You know, when necessary, we bring out a roofing company to patch. My maintenance guys have actually gotten pretty good at finding leaks and patching them themselves because they've had a lot of practice. You know, one of the leaks that we've been having and chasing lately and haven't really been able to track down because snow and ice and water and whatever on the roof this time of year is over the robotics lab, you know, which is a pretty important room. It's not, you know, all rooms are obviously important, but it's not like a regular classroom where you just have to move desks and chairs out of the way. It's got a lot of, you know, much more expensive equipment in it, so that's certainly a concern there. But yeah, we can look into, you know, the cost has obviously gone up. You know, and I think when we started talking about this, we were talking about construction costs of around $800,000 to replace this roof. So now we've, you know, nearly doubled that.
And this because the MSBA had set up a specific roof repair program whose passing we'll mourn. This is not going to be eligible for submission to MSBA for any funding?
Correct. Yeah, it would all be on the city.
Unless they come back with a program.
Unless it comes back.
Temporarily suspended right now.
The governor mentioned this in her talk a few weeks ago. So the hope is that it comes back somewhat.
And that's been, you know, our struggle for the past few years with the MSBA proposal. We've been very close of being accepted, so that's kind of, you know, why we've been holding off on the roof repairs,
But I think we've also taken a step back from that because of the construction costs going up. They're able to fund less and less every year. You know, this year, they had 54 statements of interest submitted, and only 10 communities were invited into the program this year. So that's less than 20% of the requests. So
I think for us, it's now looking at like Plan B, in the sense of, you know, let's fix the roof. I want to credit Steve and his team for, they're always up there looking at that roof since I've been here. So it's like one of the first questions that I ask them. How we doing with the roof? So
Does the high school qualify for any funding because of the age of the building, like on a historic basis?
I don't know.
Has had CPA funding in
I
the
don't-
past to do the front.
We've done historical work on the building with CPA funding. I don't know. I can look into that and see if, I don't know, Mayor, if you,
I don't know, but if you're replacing a roof that's 20-something years old, then I would say probably not.
yeah, it's not really a historical roof. It's not like it's a
It's just on
slate
a
roof. I
building.
know the CPC has approved projects on roofs before, but it's been slate roofs on churches or whatever.
Just put a slate roof on it.
There you go. It
set
might be,
a whole bunch of
might be
rocks
less
up there.
expensive.
We get creative.
Let's say it's,
We use thatch.
I know it's premature, but
Attached high school roof.
in terms of Plan B, are you guys formulating a Plan B around the lab space? Okay.
I'll get to that one, my superintendent's report.
Oh, good. Didn't mean to
Yeah.
jump the gun.
No, I mean, I think, you know, as always, I think what's great about our district and our team is, you know, we find ways of making things happen, and we know we want to upgrade our science labs and all of that, so there might be some other revenue that we can get through the pathways initiatives and stuff like that, so. But yeah, there's gonna be a lot of work, I think, on the Plan P proposals.
All right, so this slide is basically a summary of our capital requests that are going into the capital improvement plan that will be sent to the city. So the elevator controls we talked about, it's about $70,000. The two roofs we've talked about. We've got a cargo van used by one of our maintenance guys that's now 13 years old. We're a bit concerned that it's not going to pass inspection come September when it comes due. It's in pretty rough shape. This pickup truck would have a utility body on it, which is why the price is on the high side. We would not get it with a plow at this point because we've already got 2 plow trucks plus a tractor, and we don't have the manpower to need any more. But we want to get a truck that could have a plow put on it in the future, so that when our older truck is getting too old to plow, we can put a plow on the new truck. Phase 2 of the high school security upgrades is $67,000. We're going to look into a grant for some of that. Phase 1 was or is replacing the security cameras at the high school with new, better resolution, better coverage, a system that's much easier to access the video. It's just going to be a big upgrade, much easier to use, and better video. Phase 2 would be adding cameras in those areas of the building that we don't currently have coverage, where we've got blind spots. The Knockmolen and high school building automation systems we talked a little bit about. We're very close to going out to bid for that. So hopefully that will happen sometime this spring or early summer. High school engineering and planning. This has been in the capital plan for a number of years. Like I mentioned before, the high school's 20 years old. the mechanical equipment's 20 years old and getting close to the end of its life cycle. We've got masonry issues, we've got water infiltration issues. There's just a number of things that we could use engineering help with to kind of plan and prioritize and cost out so that we can put together a plan, put these things into future capital improvement plans, and kind of go about it systematically, getting these things taken care of before they become bigger problems. High school library carpet. For a number of years, I've had library carpet. I've had high school carpeting replacement in the project, just as something that we need to look at down the road. Starting to get a little more specific now with the library carpet. It's got some tears and some rips and stains, and it's just looking pretty dingy and dreary. It's time to replace. This is a price to replace it with carpet squares, so a little bit nicer than what we've got in there now, a little easier to take care of. If a carpet square gets damaged, it can be pulled up and replaced. And it's just time to take care of that carpet. Knockmolen playground repaving was first added into the plan last year. Obviously wasn't funded. It was one of the, no, I think it wasn't, I was going to say it was one of the finalists last year, but no, I don't think it was. That would just be paving the basketball court, the playground area at the west end of the building. It's got some pretty major cracks in it. You get weeds growing up through it. Kids are tripping over it. It's just kind of unsightly, and it's just going to continue to get worse. Knockmolen kitchen equipment, that would actually be in the plan as $15,000 over a couple of years. Some of the equipment in the middle school kitchen is original to when the building was built in 1972. The serving line is pretty ancient. So
Smithsonian might be interesting.
yeah, maybe. So we've been replacing some things over the years, little by little. There's just more to do, and if we get some funding there, then I'll work with the food services director to prioritize what we should work on. High school energy reduction projects, phase 4, that's just continuing what we've been doing for a number of years. Those projects have all been very successful. In the 5 years leading up to FY19, the high school used 1.25 million kilowatt hours of electricity. In FY22, that was down to 950,000. So a pretty decent reduction, a very visible reminder of, evidence of, these projects doing what they're supposed to do. And, those are all funded through green community grants and utility rebates and National Grid's on-bill repayment program. So it's all funds that we're able to get our hands on. The high school integrated art space and college and career center renovations, those space use studies are being done now, and they're going to result in some sort of a plan to upgrade those spaces. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. We're working with the architects, and we'll develop a plan as we get them more information. Knockmolen sidewalks, we've done almost all of them in the past 10 years or so. There's a couple more left, from the tennis courts up to the skate park, and the fire road around the back of the skate park are really the only sections that haven't been done in the past 10 or 15 years. Little lower priority than some of the other stuff, but still something that needs to be there. And the high school auditorium plaster repairs is just something that needs to be done once the roof leaks are gone, the roof's done. Those will get moved up the priority list at that point.
Are the plaster repairs to that because of damage from the roof leaks, or
Yeah.
just? Because that whole auditorium's not too old, right? The high school auditorium, wasn't that
Part of the
redone?
building.
No, I know, but wasn't it remodeled not
It
too long
was
ago?
redone, well,
No, no.
the
New
equipment,
coat of paint, Brian.
yeah, the plaster was redone 20 years ago when, during the renovation project. So, let me go back. So that's in a nutshell, that's the capital improvement plan that we'll be submitting to the city this year. Any questions on that?
Go ahead.
Put your hand up.
No, I was just gonna say, are we getting leaks in the Knockmullen auditorium, Jim, or is it just leaking?
Not
in the
yet,
high school right now?
not yet, but we've got a lot of standing water up on sections of especially on the auditorium roof, and that's just gonna make the deterioration much faster. There was actually a leak over the gym last year that we got taken care of. Bruce?
A couple of questions. All of these items are going to be submitted on this year's plan, or they will be request, or they will populate the next 5 years?
They will be submitted on the project detail sheets that the city gives us, which has spaces for each of the next 5 years.
And the second question I had kind of goes along with the deferred maintenance question that Juliet had. Some of these items have been on several years of requests we've made to the city. Have the costs changed in those years?
Yeah, yes, oh, certainly.
Can we track that? That if we had done this 3 years ago, this is what it would have cost us? I just think that's important information to have as well.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly look back at old capital improvement plans and see what we were asking for some of these same projects at that point.
I just think it
Yeah, I mean, like the
Becomes part
roof,
of
the
the
roof is a good
presentation.
example of that. I mean, the roof,
taking it down the road.
the roof costs have escalated substantially in the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's kind of symmetrical that the costs escalate and the need to do the roof also gets increasingly important.
Ms. Walker?
Yeah, so I had questions on process because I was trying to recall last year how this went. So do you look for a vote from us on which ones will go
I
forward
think
as
it
part
would
of the
be,
fiscal year 23 budget?
Not individually,
Okay.
just kind of as a whole. If there are things that you guys want to see changed or added or taken off, that's certainly something that we can look at.
So we are voting tonight on this?
I don't think
That
so.
wasn't the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess, I think this maybe is what you're intending when it comes back to us next is, yeah, just indicating which will be part of the fiscal year 23 impact budget and what you're going to plan to put in for future years. Just to understand that would be helpful. Because,
Yeah, I can send the committee or through superintendent, I can send out the project details.
the project sheets would be great. And then I guess another question, which is more to the mayor. When this goes to the council, I believe after your staff reviews the project detail sheets, do you also have a recommendation added to the detail sheet? Like, do you
The
agree with the
priority
department or
number?
do you tend to add maybe this, because you're gonna know in the big picture what all the capital requests are for this year. So you may recommend deferring some of these based on the overall funding.
We don't change the priorities on them, but we
Okay.
add this into what we put together for the city side, and then it gets submitted in one document to city council.
Okay, so you don't.
And this is the first year that budget and CIP will be submitted at the
At the
same
same time,
Yeah.
right. You don't have sort of a recommended CIP maximum or investment amount? Like if you get a ton of projects for this fiscal year, do you recommend deferring any of them or?
No, I mean, we do it by what they're prioritized, so.
Okay.
And then, like I said, the city council will have a number in mind of what kind of projects that they want to submit, and then we'll vote on that when they take the final vote.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's probably, it's hard for us to make this decision, but it would be nice to know what the overall city requests are going to be, so we could understand how this is going to impact the overall city requests. But yeah, having a sense of what your anticipating recommending would be helpful before we make the vote next time.
For-
You know, to me, it's a little hard to know, because if the city council is just going to on a whim take things out, you know, I'd rather be able to say, well, we know this project's going to be competing against this project, and the DPS is going to be submitting this big ticket item, so we should, I don't know, it's just hard, it's tough to be in that situation. But I also feel that making the case to the council about deferred maintenance, really being clear about our priorities for this year and what it means to the schools to not fund this stuff. Those are the two things I would
Well, and
encourage.
because a lot of these things have been on the list for so long, they're all kind of important at this point.
No, I know they are,
You
but
know, so
but it's
hard.
because we're in a situation where we're also in a pot with other capital projects that also have been deferred.
Right.
You know, we just have to
Right,
think
and
about
thi-
how
and
we.
this is basically our priority order right here.
Okay,
The way that
great.
we've got that set.
I would also just make a case, I said this last year, the engineering planning piece I think is so important, and I think it's important across all of our school buildings as well as our city facilities. I know this is already on staff's radar in the mayor's office, but I think broadening that to be not just the high school, but all school facilities would be really helpful, even if it means, you know, just changing the description and still asking for 50,000. Even if your priority is the high school, I think having a building-wide
Okay.
engineering assessment would be really helpful.
Yeah.
And then we go back to that every time we have a request. We say, this was recommended and this is why it's important. Not that you don't
Yeah,
know
and
that
once-
already.
And once we have the funding to do that,
Yeah.
you know, when we go through the designer selection process, you know, then we can add to that as funding becomes available for,
Right.
you know, different schools as well, so.
Yeah, so I guess I would just encourage you to maybe change that request to be more broad in its
Okay.
application. But I would suggest moving that up in the priority list personally, but that's
It's-
your
yeah,
call.
I mean, and it's hard. It's hard to prioritize these things because, you know, they're all important.
And I work in an 1867 building every day, so I know what you mean.
For a number of years, historically, we would vote on MSBA projects because statutorily we have to do that, but we didn't really usually vote on the CIP. It was just sort of automatically submitted. Then it was strongly encouraged that we vote for it so that, you know, we give it our stamp. But that hasn't made any difference. So it's important to put our stamp on it, to say this is what we really need, but it doesn't have the value I was led to believe it did. Is
We'll
that
see.
diplomatic enough?
Maybe with 3 new members, it'll be even more impactful.
Last year, I think it was under $2 million that they funded in the CIP. A lot of that was towards design to some of these bigger projects we have going on. So, I mean, again, that's, you know, the roof total is 3.5 million. It's pretty daunting. And I don't think that's something that we've included in our bonding capacity, unless we were talking about the much bigger project.
And the way you'll see the roofing project split out is for FY '24, suggesting that we just raise the funds for the design work. And then so the construction at the high school, Building A wouldn't be until FY '25. And then Building B would be the following 2 years. So it's not, you won't see $3.5 million in FY '24. It'll be spread out over 4 years, actually.
Yeah. I know we've really focused on design the next couple of years because we don't know what the money's going to be, you know, going to look like from there. We want to get everything as shovel-ready as possible. So if that's the case, then, you know, I would say it's probably got a much better chance of moving forward in the design
Yeah, and
phase.
hopefully, you know, if we can get the design work going this year, you know, maybe next year MSBA brings back the
Right.
program for paying for the construction.
I mean, I would have to, I mean, right now, you know, the new governor and, you know, the way I think many school districts are, especially with their buildings, there's gonna have to be some relief, or support. So maybe that's why they, and we don't know what the new governor's looking at, but from what I hear, she's very supportive of schools and needs to provide, you know, different funding for the public schools, so.
And we have to have the capital plan done into the city by March 3rd, so guessing that means one more meeting for you guys between now and
We
then.
mean 28th, right?
do.
We'll have this as part
We'll make
of
sure
that.
it's on there.
Yeah.
Yep. Get up.
We'll have some numbers and priority list.
Yeah. Science wing renovation update. You know, we're all aware that we were not invited into the MSBA's program this year. What we were looking at was about 26,000 square feet between the addition and renovation space. Construction costs, as we've been talking about, have just been jumping dramatically. They're closing in on $700 per square foot in some cases. So that makes this an $18.2 million project, you know, before you add in design and project management costs. So you're north of $20 million if we decide to continue pursuing this. You know, but as the superintendent was saying, do we look at alternatives here? Do we look at, you know, bringing in, like we're doing with the art and music areas, bringing in a consultant to look at how we're using those spaces currently and see what we can do with the space that we have? You know, so that's.
Are we voting on that?
Voting on it?
I'm sorry.
Hey, Steve, when we were touring the labs before, one of the comments was, from one of the teachers, was the electric outlet, or the lack of electric outlets for the microscopes. Is there not a way to less expensively run new electricity into those rooms?
Extension cords.
No, other than running, except like the Christmas tree, not like that, but
No, there's no reason we can't add outlets into any of those spaces. I mean,
I was just surprised that was a comment, because that
there's
seems
plenty
like
of capacity. Yeah. I'm not
Short
I'm
money,
not
though,
su-
is what
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
not
yeah.
sure where that comment came from or what space was being talked about, but, you know, everything in there meets code at, you know, at a minimum, so.
I guess maybe you can talk to that superintendent about that, because it seemed like an easy fix
I
for that
think-
room.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, this update still includes the roofs? The replacement of the roofs?
Um,
Probably not, right? Because that's just one piece of it.
It could. It's.
Well, I'm just trying to break down the number.
This is, yeah, I mean,
See
it's,
what what's in.
this is a, you know, this is an estimate based on
Right.
square footage and, you know, data that I'm gleaning out of the MSBA website. I mean, this is, this spaghetti chart is, you know, I stole this directly from the MSBA's website and.
Borrowed it.
You know, you know, looking at that doesn't tell you very much.
Donated
But you kind of get the general trend of everything is going upward. You know, each of those lines is a construction-related economic indicator, and each of the squares is a school building project. So if you look at, you know, somewhere around, you've got cost per square foot on the left-hand side, and you've got dates on the bottom. So if you look at somewhere around 2012, 13, when we did the Bresnahan School, that came in at about $250 per square foot. Where now, the 4 projects in that box were all just bid out last fall, and those costs ranged from $450 per square foot to almost $750 per square foot. And this line right here is the limit of what MSBA will reimburse for. So there's a big gap between that reimbursement level and, you know, what projects are bidding out at right now. So it's not a very, you know, positive outlook in the construction field right now. And that's about all I got for you tonight.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So we do have, I think, a deadline of the MSBA resubmission. Remember, when you resubmit, there's no nothing's binding, right, Steve? With that, a resubmission of our proposal?
Yeah, we would have to resubmit by
14th, right, of April?
April 14th,
Yeah.
if we were gonna go that route. It's gotta be voted on by you guys and by
Right.
city council.
I have one question, so just clarified, haven't we always been doing the science thing with the roof? Wasn't that the
correct.
idea?
Yeah.
Because you only get one chance.
Correct.
Well, we had to because.
I know, yeah, I remember from years back now, we're talking, like when I first got on, we were talking about doing that, right?
Right.
So if we go do it again, does it make sense now to split them into two different projects? Two different asks, I guess I should say.
No, they don't allow you to do that. That's why we always tie them together. They only let you submit one statement of interest per school, and they don't want to fund a small project like a roof if there's a bigger project like a renovation.
$3.5 million is a small project,
Yeah.
even though they've not,
MSBA.
MSBA hasn't gone past wherever that line is,
Yeah.
right? It's still considered small.
And they're not even funding roofs right now.
Right.
At all, so.
So basically, we have no recourse. Like,
Correct.
why bother filling it out and wasting all your time if there's no way they're gonna say yes? So if we can't get the signs thing without the roof, and they're not gonna fund roofs, why bother
No,
doing it?
They had a program that funded roofs.
No, I know,
Shut down,
but
yeah.
right now they're not, and the roof on its own is too small anyway. So can we not just do the science wing then?
If we're-
You could.
I mean, you gotta get something,
Yeah,
right?
But I mean, you heard how many projects got submitted this year. And they
I know,
picked-
but if we're gonna do it again in April,
That's why, yeah.
don't do the roof part and do just the science wing part. Is that considered large enough?
But you're still planning,
I know.
you know what I mean?
But we know they said no. We know there's no roof funding. So if we're gonna ask for any money, just ask for the other part.
No, you could still,
But the way it works is that they connect you with a designer, with an architectural firm, and they come in and do a feasibility study, and they look at what you need. And one of those needs is a roof. So that's why they want all of it done together,
But they're not gonna fund a roof.
not right.
Not on its own.
They would if it was
not
part
on
of
its
a.
own, but they would have,
part of a
they'd
bigger project.
fund it if it was part of a big project.
Well, in theory, but.
Theory.
Yeah.
Can I ask, so, your question, I think you're looking for a decision about whether or not to move forward with
To
the other.
resubmit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what are the downsides of resubmitting? I mean, it takes staff time to resubmit, right? Is that a kind of a big lift?
But we've got a really strong template, it's like. 3 right?
Just change the date at the top, right?
Well, the costs have to be updated, right? Or have you already updated them?
It's, no, it's not a heavy lift to fill it out. It basically, it repopulates the new application for you if you
Okay.
want it to.
I guess the downside I see is it does have to go to city council for approval, and there's this thought that, well, we're not gonna fund, why would we fund a capital request if you're applying for MSBA funding, right? And then if we get denied again, yeah, I don't know.
But I think from, the roof project, you're probably a ways out, even if the city was going to fund that,
Yeah.
Right, Steve?
The soonest I could see it being, obviously depends on when the funding's available,
Right.
but just the process, the soonest I could see it happening would be summer of 2024.
Yeah.
Right.
And that would be the same, I mean, regardless of whether it was city funds or MSBA funds. Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So even, yeah, maybe chances are the project wouldn't get denied. We would find out next December, right? If we were accepted or not
Right.
again.
Yeah.
And we'd be starting that other plan, I think you work on plan B, you don't just wait around.
Yeah.
But
I mean, what is
just-
the downside, I guess? Do you
Yeah.
see any downsides? Does anyone see any downsides for us just resubmitting?
Well, I'm
We could
wondering
get
about.
picked.
Is that a downside?
Well, you have to.
I mean,
fund-
look at the cost
you
of
have
that
to-
project. I mean, that's a
You
debt
still have to
exclusion. I
fund
mean,
a
like,
lot.
it's
Yeah.
possible, yeah,
Can I just ask about the scope of the project? And, I mean, that's a huge addition, and I'm sorry, I have no context or history of what that might be or, the rationale for it. But
is there a potential to look at like a Plan B or a Plan C and retweak what we're asking for to be a renovation of existing space rather than an addition? Is there any existing science centers or classrooms that could be renovated into a more state-of-the-art science facility that just costs a lot less? You're changing your application. Maybe it looks more attractive and a lot less expensive.
Yeah, I think, Steve, we've looked at all of that, and I think the idea is if you are going to, fund the roof, hopefully that other program comes back. But then the Plan B was like, how do we renovate the existing space? Kind of looking at capital grants through we're working on pathways, which I'm going to talk about a little bit. Pathways grant, but there's also capital money towards that. So if we did a pathways for like either manufacturing and/or environmental science, and we're accepted to the pathway, then we could say, the need to make this program is we need to renovate the engineering labs at the high school. So I do think there's ways for us to pursue, Plan B. I don't see, even if you did resubmit the MSBA and they came back and you were accepted, but if it's not feasible and we can't do it, you could.
No, that's
there's
happened
no
before,
commitment.
sure, yeah.
But that's the key. Do we continue working on Plan B, but, do we submit another proposal, the same proposal? Chances are we wouldn't get accepted, but if we did, then at least you might have different options next January.
To Member Higgins' point, though, is it possible that during the analysis, part of the outcome is that they recommend not doing an addition, they recommend renovating existing space? Would that be, if you're working with a designer, is there a potential that could happen?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anything's possible.
Okay.
You gotta get that far
Gotta get
into the door.
That far into the door, okay.
Key is once that roof,
But we could do that ourselves, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We could hire, the same firm that we're using in the other parts of the building to
Right.
do
Right.
exactly that up in the science wing.
Taking a look at that
That
space. and what
Does
it
that
costs.
seem more feasible? I'm just wondering, if you resubmit, I understand it's not a big lift, but if you resubmit, it gets selected, how reasonable is it really that we're gonna end up with construction? There's just so many capital projects in the city already. We're looking at the NYS building, that's already really difficult to find the funding for. This is even more fun, so I'm just trying to figure out how feasible it actually is if we.
From talking with the teachers, and Brian and I both did that tour, the space that exists right now is overbooked, overfilled, and it's really having an impact on the kinds of labs that we're able to offer. So, it's kind of like we're at that place. We are down the road where there are programs we're not going to be able to offer because we just don't have the lab space to do them. And that is our domain, about what's in best interest of the kids. So, I remember when we were discussing this, one of the city councilors said, I don't understand the connection between lab space and the curriculum, your academic offerings. And I gave that counselor an opportunity to rescind the question because I thought it was it was obvious, but obviously, if you don't have advanced engineering lab space, then you can't offer that advanced stuff. So the problems that the teachers at least shared with us were that they are using half classes to get in and out in that space. The space is not built up enough to serve as a multi-purpose lab. It's just, we're there, We were probably there pretty close to 20 years ago when the building was going through its sort of map of what do we want and what are we taking out. Lots of things got taken out for the high school to be what it is now. And that, I think, was one of them. So it's where the teachers are really feeling the crunch and they want to be able to offer more, the district does. So yeah, I'm interested in a Plan B and a Plan A, and I'll take C as well. Because I think that the time has come for us to try to address this issue.
I'm not gonna argue it's not ideal. I'm just wondering about feasibility.
Well, let's hear, I'd love to hear the Plan B when we get there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that should be part of the, CIP. If there's money that needs to go towards the design of a Plan B, I mean, that should be in there. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely favoring more of a Plan B, just because I do think, because it's STEM, I mean, in a couple of years, they could be, you could be outdated again, right? So how do we make functional spaces that can update without, because it's not a space issue, I don't think. I mean, that's not what I heard when I was with the teachers on the tour. It was more like these rooms can't do what we want them to do. And our enrollment goes down a couple hundred kids over the last 10 years, right? Our enrollment hasn't gone up, so we don't have more kids in the space. So I'd like to see if there's options to make that more of a 21st century, science lab, other than adding a whole other wing for $20+ million. So I'd like to see that.
So do you want to see a project in the CIP for a space use study? Is that what we're talking about then?
I'd like to see that, yeah.
Because I can certainly get a cost for that pretty easily and,
Okay.
and plug that in. Absolutely.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
So-
Thank
so
you.
we're passing on MSBA this year, submission? Have you made a decision or a recommendation?
Is that part of your
I think we do
report?
that
I'm
the next
confused what
meeting,
you're
right?
reporting back on.
We have another meeting before that has to be.
No, I'm saying
Date was
that
April.
they have to put it
14th.
together for us to approve it.
Right.
So I don't know what we just decided.
I don't think we,
I don't
I
think
thought,
we
we
have
decided
decided.
anything.
haven't
We're
decided
just-
anything, but I thought the
Sometime before the
superintendent had more to
14th.
talk about,
Yeah.
I'll make a note.
Yeah.
right? Do you have more to talk about?
What's that?
About
Yeah.
this? Okay.
I mean, I think your MSBA submission, just to submit the similar proposal, it's not heavy lifting. But it gives another option on the table down the road. I mean, it might be, like you said, Mayor, there's no way, if it comes at $30 million or something, that we're ready to do that. So that's all. So we have to the 14th to decide if we're gonna resubmit the same proposal, but at the same time, work on what's the plan to fix a roof, what's the plan to upgrade the science labs, anticipating that the MSBA proposal will probably be denied again. Or we just don't resubmit. I mean, I think that's the decision of the school committee.
Is a potential Plan B submissible to MSBA?
No, we'd be using a whole we'd have to go a whole different avenue. Yeah. Mhm. With some of the grant funding that's available. So.
Okay, are we ready to move on to subcommittee updates?
I am.
Okay,
Can I just, I'm sorry.
yeah,
What is,
sure.
I'm following Member Mennon's question. What is the next step related to item number 10, MSBA funding?
So what I'll do is I'll go back, I'll meet with Mr. Burkholm, we'll look at the proposal. And then I think at the February 28th meeting, we can have
Okay.
some more detail for the school committee to see if we're gonna be moving forward on it.
Yeah, and it looks like
Okay,
we have two other
appreciate
meetings
that.
in March. And if
Yeah.
you decide that you want us to vote on
Yeah.
whether we submit or not, then
Yeah.
you should bring it in.
Thank you for clarifying.
Sure.
So at our next meeting, we'll also be voting on the CIP, so that would be a good time to have
Have
a little
another
bit of a
discussion.
follow-up conversation.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Callahan, FinCom?
Thank you. Last time we met was January 12th. We talked about the MSBA denial and everything we just talked about. So there's not a lot to tell you. Plan B, athletic user fees and bus fees were delayed until, I think Phil just walked out. This Thursday's meeting, we should have the updated information from the AD about athletics and all those things. And then Phil is supposed to have the geo mapping bus thing with actual, addresses and all that stuff. So we'll see. I presume that's still on the table. I'll probably see the written up agenda tomorrow. That's about it, really.
That's next Thursday, right? Not this Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yeah, what's the 6th?
17th?
16th.
16th.
16, thank you. Okay, Ms. Walker, policy update?
Yeah, we had a good meeting with our, at the January meeting, we had a good meeting with our representative from the MASC, Dorothy Presser. We made good progress, I think, overall, and made it through at least one full section, I think. And so we are discussing the revisions that are proposed. Sometimes we make suggestions as well, and then she comes back to us with a revised version, and then I'm anticipating they will be coming back to the school committee in chunks. Sorry, that's not the right word, but in pieces. Maybe some nights it will be chunks, but depending on the topic. But in sections so that it's more digestible for the review and approval. Sorry, I keep using those references to digesting. Okay, so then moving forward in next week we have 2 meetings. I don't know how we ended up in this situation, but we are meeting on Monday night, the 13th, to review the curriculum committee recommendation from Member Higgins, and that'll be the only item on our agenda. And then on Wednesday night we are doing a follow-up meeting with Dorothy Presser as well. We will be doing both meetings in the Knock Middle Library. I think the first meeting is at 7 and the second meeting I think is at 6 or 6:30. It is posted on the website. Dorothy will be joining us over Zoom, but we'll be having an in-person meeting. So we'll just keep chugging along.
Ms. Walker, when you said you met with, when you first started, I didn't catch you.
MASC, Dorothy Presser.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, superintendent's report?
All right. Just a few items. The first thing is the operational service division, as we've been talking about through our process, that 14% increase for special education out of district placements. So the North Shore superintendents, superintendents on the North Shore, our group is writing the governor and lieutenant governor kind of a standard letter. I did make a copy of it for you all. But basically just making the governor and lieutenant governor Driscoll aware of, if they're not aware of this, the impact that this would have. So this 14%, if it's left unaddressed, will have an immediate adverse effect on public education in every district throughout the Commonwealth. So this is, North Shore superintendents advocate pretty well. We're a strong coalition, and so we do have a group that's working with local and state officials to hopefully, address that cost, because I think the average cost for many districts is similar to us, about $500,000 to $700,000 increase, and it's a concern not only on the North Shore but throughout the Commonwealth. So, but that's our update. So we're hoping with the governor's budget, and that will address some of these costs or reduce some of these costs moving forward. What else do we got next? All right. Next, wanted to touch base on the, I did bring up cybersecurity if we're aware of what happened in Nantucket, and meeting with Lisa Furlong in our tech team. We have a lot of checks and balances within our system. We have multiple backup plans for all of our data. So if an incident like that occurred in Newburyport, we're in, I think, a great place. The worst case scenario with that, it was kind of a ransom type of thing where the hackers grabbed all their files, all their information, and was holding it ransom. Like, if you want to open up your file, it's going to cost you X. With our tech people, we have backup, so the worst case scenario is you'd lose data for 24 hours, but our entire system is being backed up on a regular basis. So meeting with our tech team, we're in a good place because, you know, when you heard that story, you know, we weren't, if that ever happened to us, you know, where do we stand and what do we have in place? So I think that was an important news story, but also good for us that we're in a good place with that. The other piece that I have on superintendent's report is we did, working with the HRC, that I attend all their meetings, and they've been, in my 5 years, such a great organization and support when we've had incidences of anti-Semitism or race. They've been part of our educational programming. And I think we had a great turnout for Dancing on a Volcano that we hosted at the NOC. And we had many, I think it was probably one of the biggest community turnouts that we've had in a long time. I think well over 100 people came. It was a great movie, and it just really had a lot of people thinking. I know you were there. I don't know if you wanted to say a couple things.
No, the movie is the story of a local resident, Jesse Calfo, who I know mostly from theater, and actually our daughters were in the same bat mitzvah group. But, his mother was in Hungary and managed to get almost all of her family out through contacts she had at the Chilean embassy. This is in World War II. And the family ended up in Trinidad, and they ended up all over the world, but they were able to get out. It was very real, and they had taken a lot of home movies, so there were a lot of what it was like living in Hungary with the Nazis present, lining people up. She actually, even one of the things that blew me away was that when Hitler marched in, she was actually in her apartment looking down at the parade when Hitler came by, and it was just very powerful. So it's a great movie, and hopefully there'll be another opportunity to see it. I was I'm part of the Human Rights Committee, and I was really glad that we did it. I was very, very proud of the school's participation in this. Deb Szabo, Lisa Furlong, there were just all kinds of folks from the schools making sure that it not only came out well, but it was really clear that we were supporting these kinds of conversations in the community. So, yeah, I thought it was great.
Awesome. All right, and then just last aspect, and this is the work. I think all of the work that we've been doing for the past 5 years, especially at the high school, and credit the administration and kind of the vision of developing first. I think the first piece for us was our dual enrollment program, where we've partnered with the local colleges. The second piece is having a comprehensive internship program is what we're working towards. The third piece for us, I really believe, is the place-based education from the NOC and from classes at the high school, going out within our own community and learning about history and science. So it's really tying all of those things together. So part of what Mr. Wolf has, I think, talked about in the past is our Innovation Path grant that the DESE is putting out there for districts. And it's really connecting all of those pieces of the academics in school, college and career readiness, tying in the dual enrollment, tying in the internship program, and really developing a career pathway. So I'm meeting with our team this Thursday once again, and then the representatives. I was fortunate to be at Whittier Tech, where the person in charge of the Pathways grant was actually there presenting. So we have a meeting with her on Friday to develop our grant proposal. So there is funding towards that, for technical support. So that would be staffing, any type of equipment, materials, education that DESE will support. The different pathways that we have is or that's out there is manufacturing, business and finance, informational healthcare, in social assistance and environmental and life science. And as we all know, the work that Erin Hobbs and our community's been doing around environmental science, it really ties into I think a nice pathway. As part of that grant program that's we were talking about, the capital grant was there. There was another representative from DESE that talked about that to support the bigger grants and the bigger projects to support a pathway. So that's where we were looking at the science labs, you know, and would this be an opportunity if we did tie in environmental science, or if it's manufacturing tied to the CAD program, you know, could that capital grant through the DSC? And so some of those grants have up to $500,000 and more. So they ask for those to, as you develop those proposals, to think big, they said, and I can think pretty big when they said that. So I think that that's another opportunity, but it also ties in to what we're trying to do for the college and career readiness. What's really nice, it ties directly back to our strategic plan, portrait of a graduate. You know, what do we need our students to have before they graduate? And so we're excited about that. So that's kind of where we're at with the Pathways Grant. We're going to tie in, you know, with my meetings with some of the officials in the next couple weeks to see, especially the capital piece and kind of what that would look like in a Pathways Grant. So I do think there's opportunities for that. The other piece I also want to tie in is at the Superintendent's Roundtable this week, there was a presentation on virtual reality, IA, augmented reality, that technology is fast and furious and is going to overtake education. So I think we're also on the right path with our one-to-one iPad, because as you saw Mr. Sheridan, you know, when he put the frog on the table and dissection. So there's also, I think, for us to think of other ways to create that science lab experience without necessarily having to be in the classroom itself. The other piece that we're also thinking about is the connections that we have with the local colleges and universities. So if there is a lab, or if there is something that we feel our students, you know, can we partner some of the local colleges and utilize some of their facilities? So I think there's a lot of, if we bring people to the table and develop a plan B, you know, so I'm optimistic, and I think for us in this district, we've never let anything really stay in our way. Of like, oh, you know, it's never been status quo since I've been here. So this is important for the kids, and we'll figure out a way to go. So we're excited about that. And I think all of those things tie together. So we've had pockets over the years with the bigger vision of this is going to be a pathway for our kids. So that's it. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Can I ask a question? What does the timeline look like for that Pathways grant that you were talking
Pathways
about?
grant, where there's two phases. So we're in the process of writing the Pathways grant now, and then it will be submitted in the fall. And then phase 2 is the assistance and the DESC approval. So what we're doing now is Mr. Wolf and his team has done a lot of work already. We also have Dr. Papagiotis, who's been mentoring with us. She's a retired principal, has been mentoring our principals, but also has a lot of grant writing experience. So she's assisting us with this. And by working with, I think, the DSE officials as we're writing that grant and sharing kind of what our thought process is, we're pretty confident that, you know, I think we have more than just one. I think we have a few pathways.
So what does the implementation look like? Is that in another 2 years or longer?
No, I think it's, we're going to work, right now we have working on the submission of phase 1. And I think I'll probably have more details afterwards on, you know, when I speak with her. But I think we'll be up and ready to run some of those pathways going into next year. That's kind of the ultimate goal, or at least to pilot a pathway. Because we do have the classes, we do have the dual enrollment, we do have the internships. So I'm kind of looking at a small scale of a pilot, if that's possible for us to do as we move forward. And then part of the support for that, like a phase one pathway support's around $25,000 to $50,000 of support of like staffing, mentoring, materials, things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're excited, so.
Do you know what the status of the iPad enrollment program is? Is that going to be announced shortly?
Yeah, well, right now, we're in the process. I think we've been pushing out information.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the key components for us is having the finances available for families.
Yeah.
So what we would like to have, and I think we're using My School Bucks right now. So then the families, once they have the information, they can sign up. It's going to go
Got
right
it.
through.
Great.
Yeah.
So we should be getting some announcement soon?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
We're close. We're probably about 2 weeks away with all like the data set up, the store set up, the banking, all that good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, the excitement and the interest is really high right now. But as we roll that out, we want to just make it real easy for families.
Yeah.
Click on a link, and then it will take us through. So we're kind of troubleshooting all of that. Yeah, well, we're excited about that.
All set?
I guess that's the key word, is excitement.
Excited. Okay, great. Any exciting new business?
Oh, actually, I have one thing.
Go
It's Counselor Appreciation Week for school counselors. So, yeah, I want to give them a shout out for all the work that they've been doing, so.
I thought you were going to say city councilor.
I know.
Wow, that's a big,
Oh, that's-
big leap.
That's stirring up.
We consulted on that first.
We'll be doing
Just gonna
it.
keep my mouth shut.
We're gonna be doing a retreat, a budget retreat, so. No, actually, Mr. Callen, that's under new business, your idea on the 16th.
Oh, yeah, right. So we're gonna do a joint finance subcommittee
Yeah.
meeting. So FinCom for us, budget and finance for them, which is Sharif Zeed, Froze Khan, and Mark Wright. And everybody else is obviously able to come because it's a public meeting. It'll be on both meetings' calendars, though it is 100% school committee's meeting, run by us, participation from others. Basically, just, get ahead of the game so we don't show up in June and then don't know what's going on. So
Yeah, I think that's a great,
9:30 on March 16th, somewhere in central office, probably way bigger space than Phil's office.
yeah, I would think.
Be good.
So we gotta figure that out.
And I'll just add that State Representative Dawn Chan
yes.
will be Zooming in to join us at that meeting. We talked about that at our retreat. This will be an opportunity for her to give us an update on state education funding.
That would be great. A long time ago, we would host a meeting here that invited the state rep, the state senator, and a number of other people to meet with us before the budget process began to just talk about what's going on. So it's good that they're resurrecting.
We're hoping it will be timely.
Yes.
Right. I did also want to just mention our next meeting, since it's not in our usual cycle because of the February break. We won't be meeting again until Tuesday, February 28th, and that meeting will be in the high school library. Any other announcements or any other new business?
Just, I have been invited to join and accepted serving on the Mask Legislative Committee, so I will be involved in Mask legislative thingies.
Good, so I don't have to
Great.
forward or share any of those emails I get. You're going to do that for
Nope,
us.
I'm the man.
Awesome.
Oh, excellent. Sounds great. And we are doing an executive session,
Yes.
correct? So I'll make a motion that we move to executive session. We will not be returning to open session.
Second.
We'll need a roll call, Mrs. Kennedy?
Mayor Reardon,
Yes.
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Bannon,
Yes.
Mr. Cole. Ms.
Absent.
Ms. Higgins
Yes.
and Mr. Callen.
Yes.